So this is just a brief introduction about what we have been building for the past years. It is almost like a very magical experience, with Lola, with everyone at Sui and Mr. Labs. So last year in Paris, I was very honored to be part of the Basecamp at Place Vendôme. And since then, the whole thing just got excited, elevated into something else. So now, without further ado, let's begin. So our project is named after ARTTOO. As you can tell from the name, so we will be focusing on art. And however, there are two different aspects when we talk about art. There are, of course, the cultural aspect, as well as the asset, the financial aspect of the asset. So I just want to tell everyone a bit more information about the scale of the art market. With the global sales, it has reached almost 60 billion in 2024. The total art market, we're looking at something around $1.7 trillion. And within the art market, because a lot of the data are actually not recorded, since they only record actually during the secondary market, they only record all of the auction prices, where it's only taking 30 to 40% around the secondary market for art, whereas the majority of the secondary market, it has been done by private dealing, which is protected by law, and all of those data will not be disclosed to the general public. However, there is one really interesting sector within art, which is art financing. Basically, you borrow. It's an over-collateral borrowing model that you use. You pledge your art. We take physical custodian, and then you borrow money for it. That actually has been invented in 1997 by a guy called Arthur Edelman. And so right now, the market has just hit 40 billion. And it has been one of the fastest growing sector ever within the art industry. However, what more can art mean? What actually, but we say it actually have two different very interesting features with the culture and with the finance. What does art mean? Like, why do we need art in the general public? So art actually, a lot of people I know, especially a lot of people in technology and a lot of people in crypto, think art has nothing to do with them, but art actually has everything to do with you. It actually reshaped our standard of beauty. For example, with advertisement. Actually, it inspired so many graphic designs, so many advertisements in the ways you've never imagined before. Or, for example, like product design, right? Everything is inspired by it. So challenges in our investment. Basically, traditionally, when we think about the entry barrier for our investment, it is incredibly high. So usually there are two different types of art that we're looking at. The first type of art is the one that will go up in prices, what we call as the blue chip art and the blue chip artist. Usually the ones we're looking at, at least more than $50K. That is the entry level for blue chip artist. Below that is much more decorative. It's much more likely you just get to spend it. You will never get to resell it, which means at least you will, you need to afford more than $50K for one particular painting. And a lot of the times, the galleries, they will also do due diligence to your details to actually make sure that you are protected, the artists are protected. So you need a certain level of requirements in order to purchase that particular art, which also creates another very, a very bad barrier for entries. And the liquidity problems with art is just, is really bad. Let's just face it. Because you wouldn't expecting to get your art resold within the next year. But usually, we're looking at 5 years to 10 years for each transactions. And traditionally speaking, because I mentioned before, there are basically two different ways of selling your art. Once through auction houses, they usually take up to 30% of commission, which is really, really expensive. Second of all, they use through private dealers, which also might take you also 10%. So that's the third point of high transactional cost. And then the fourth is authenticity, which I will tell you a surprising fact. Actually, everything you buy from the auction houses, the authenticity of the painting is not protected. So you might buy a fake one, and it's actually protected by laws. Our solution. So at ARTTOO here, we basically have two different products, and the very first product will be the fractional ownership. So we actually own, we actually take the ownership on chain, we tokenize the whole thing, we make it into different pieces. So you can start your investment as easy as $1. All of the paintings, we will take actually the physical custodianship with our specialty warehouse in Zurich and Hong Kong. So everyone can start their art investment as little as $1. And all of the tokens can be free traded via all of the liquidity pools via Sui's DeFi ecosystem. Yeah, so basically here is an explanation of how the whole thing works. After we launched the product, there is one interesting concept that we have. It's called initial art offering, which everyone buys a certain percentage of the token at a fixed price. There will be no bonding curve occurred at this stage. And then after the painting is 100% completed, we will launch the trading pool via all of the DeFi protocols. Yeah, so right now we're exclusively working with Bluefin for our trading. So what's more? So actually this, the first product is something that very nice and easy. I don't think there's a lot of innovation to it, to be frankly speaking, so which is quite boring. However, the second one that we did, I think is really interesting. So we are going to do the very first RWA physical asset lending protocol, which has never been done before across all chains. This is the artwork lending. Basically, what it essentially means is you don't have to tokenize the whole thing. For example, you have a $5 million worth of Picasso. You can, submit your request. We're gonna appraise, which means evaluate and also authenticate the artwork, and then we're gonna take the physical ownership to our warehouse, so it's custodian with us. And after that, we gonna, okay. So after that, we're gonna issue loans up to 45% of the prices. And what's more interesting about this is it actually looks like a very traditional model. But with the receipt of loan, we're going to do a fungible tokens, which is essentially an asset we can use to against borrowing among all other DeFi lending protocols. And it can also be wrapped with different structural financial products into different tranches in the future. Yes, I think that will be it right now. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Christopher.
Yeah.
I know this is not a typical commerce presentation because it has become much more DeFi, but just to kind of call out some of the highlights of what you've told me in the past about ARTTOO. So the key part here is you have an art background, right? You collect, We're talking about pieces that are incredibly expensive and stable pricing, right? So
Yes, of course.
So give me an idea of how volatile these artworks are in terms of pricing. Like, do they go up and down like crypto?
So basically, it really depends on the class of the artwork. If we're looking at something like modern art, for the past 15 years, we have an average APY of 12 to 13%, which is actually quite decent. However, if you look at contemporary art, that means the artist is still alive. It might go up 5 times a year. You might also there is a great chance you might never get to resell them because there's simply no market for it. Yeah, so it really depends.
It really depends. But you've also got collaborations. Can we name the collaborations that you have potentially coming? So with artists who are very stable and alive.
Definitely.
Like?
For artists?
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to say anything.
Okay, we're not going to name them. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm really sorry because everyone, on the 13th, there will be a huge launch starting with huge PR on ArtNet, which is the biggest art press around the world, and Bloomberg. And let's just,
we'll wait for that.
Wait for that. Thank you very much.
No, hang on. No, you're not getting off stage. So my second question was then, now the power of this is RWA in general is quite boring, but art, as you said, has cultural impact. So you're going to bring and make it possible for anybody, myself, to afford art pieces that I would not normally be able to afford, but in doing so also participate in making money off my ownership in a way that maybe I would not have been able to do before. And that part, I think, is where it becomes a bit more commerce-like, because you might get like a baby art lover like myself who just wants to kind of make it make sense to spend a little bit more on a piece of art, but I can start with like $500.
Of course.
And it's like putting it in a savings account.
Yes, definitely.
There you go. Okay. Do we have any questions for Christopher from the crowd? Yes.
Yes, please.
I'll bring the microphone.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Hi.
Hi, so I'm from Shadow. We're tokenizing stuff, NFTs. Also, we're based in Paris. So lots of art. So how can I claim back? Like, can I claim back, assuming you're tokenizing a Monet or, I don't know, Mona Lisa? So can somebody claim back the art? Like, wouldn't be stuck? For example, assuming like assuming you're tokenizing a Picasso to 1 million tokens. So somebody's going to play in the pool, get 5% of it. Is there like a threshold? Like somebody can, I have 10% of all the tokens in the art. Can I claim? Can I get the actual art, put it in the Louvre?
So basically, for tokenization of the art piece, we're going to hold the artwork from 3 to 7 years when we actually decided to sell the whole thing to other people or to send it to auction. So when the ownership has been transferred, so everyone can claim their proportion of the income via their tokens on Sui. Yeah.
I think just to build on the question, if I own 10% of that Picasso, can I force the sale of that Picasso? Is it kind of like that? Can I make it go to market?
No, we're gonna vote. So unless you own more than 50%, then you cannot force it.
Amazing. Yeah. Have one other question here.
Will there be any classical art that you guys?
So right now we mainly work with modern art, which is, I don't know what you mean by classical. You mean the ones in the museums?
Flemish, 1500s, 16.
Yeah. So with that kind of so it's very interesting. I know those artists, those artworks are incredibly exquisite. However, they are mainly exhibits within the museums. And the museums are the only ones who's actually acquiring it. So the secondary market for classical art, it is actually really bad. So there's basically no transactions whatsoever. So usually the transaction starts from, the modern art. Yeah, so no classical art for now. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you for the question. Any other questions for Christopher?
Oh,
we have one. Sorry. Coming over.
So let's say, for example, you buy an artwork and you create, 50,000 tokens. Will the team hold a certain amount of tokens?
No.
100%.
No, 100% to public. There is no point for us, to buy it unless, for example, myself if I wanted it, and it's just, it's just we have no team reserve whatsoever. Yeah.
Okay. Do you? You have an initial interest. I forget what the word is.
Initial art offering.
Right.
Yeah.
You sell that and then you buy the artwork, or you buy the artwork and then you initiate?
Of course, we always need to we always need to make sure that we actually have the ownership of the artwork before exercising the initial art offering. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense, both on the ethical and compliance level. Yeah.
Okay. And last question. So, will you be working with new artists, like creating new artwork, or you're going to have a big splash and buy? Well, okay. Yeah,
okay, that is something very interesting. So we will commission. This is called, usual term is commission, with some major artists on new artworks to the ways that, there might be, no matter that it's mainstream culture or subculture, there might be some cultures that I actually want to investigate, and I actually want to promote the ideas that I think is worth promoting. I want to use this particular piece to inspire people, but that usually considered as our special projects. Yeah.
And is this the blue chip artist that you talked about?
It will also always be a blue chip artist via ARTTOO.
There you go.
Yeah. Thank you very much.